explain this.
That's a hand.
Not my hand.
Oh.
The camera can't see me. I'm behind here.
All right, take two.
Only see what's happening on that side of the camera.
Take two. Okay.
So,
let's see. Welcome to Off the Rails.
okay, and you are? Who are you?
My name is Brad.
No last names.
No last names.
Oh, no. Oh.
Unless you want visitors coming
You
over.
don't want your last name. You don't like people.
Well, I don't have I got to think through a script a little bit. So anyway.
I want to tell you, hi, my name is Brad. Welcome to my garage.
Okay.
This is Off the Rails, and we're gonna have a good time. And I'm gonna teach you about all the stuff and show you all the crazy stuff I have and I have worked with and played with. No, just see this.
My name is Brad. Welcome to Off the Rails. You're going to see some things on this particular video and many more to follow that are unlike anything you've seen before in the model railroad world. Covering all types of grades and scales and everything else and many, many, many trains. We're going to have some fun with this. It's a little different type of layout, as you can see, and it's set in Florida. In Florida, with no basements, we have a real challenge to put together a model railroad of any type whatsoever. No basements, no railroad. So they thought. However, Off the Rails is going to bring you a complete instructional format as to how you can overcome that particular situation.
And so why did you get into trains? Why, of all things, why trains?
Why trains? Good question. Well, when I was growing up, the first thing that happened on my 7th or 8th Christmas, I had seen in catalogs, a lot of catalogs, Lionel trains. We had a store downtown in Miami called Burdines. Burdines was the first to put out an entire display called a layout. Kids were lined up down the block
And
to see this.
Is that like their way of like trying to entice people to come in?
Absolutely, because obviously, unless we traveled, we could not go to Grand Central Station.
Right.
We couldn't go to New York and Manhattan to Madison Hardware, where all of the Lionel trains began. That's where the bed of widespread Lionel started, right out of Madison Hardware, with a beautiful downtown Grand Central Station display that featured a number of Lionel trains running in a very large layout, as all the passengers moving back and forth between New Jersey and all other points of the world came through and saw this layout of trains.
Were they the first manufacturers of like collectible or toy trains?
They weren't the first, but they soon became the most widely distributed. Marx, which was another tin toy company, had actually had their trains out, and they were in competition with one another. American Flyer came along. Competition there as well. So those were the three main trains. Mr. Lionel himself, who, by the way, ended up in the Palm Beach area as he retired, but nonetheless, he had an idea that every boy, every girl in the United States should have a train around the Christmas tree. And so following that leadership that he had, it became actually a worldwide, how should I say it? Every kid wanted one.
Phenomenon?
What?
It was a phenomenon, and it was a highly beneficial and profitable one. But the catalog was the big issue. And sometime just before Halloween, these catalogs became available. So you'd go down, you'd get a catalog, you'd come home, you'd open it up, and you'd see all the trains that year that Lionel was featuring.
Do you have any of those catalogs?
I do. I do have some of those, and during the program in the following sequences, we will show some of those.
Okay, yeah.
But that was very inspiring, and kids loved the look of it. Very colorful. Of course, at that time, in the 1940s and 50s, trains were all over the United States.
So then how did you purchase a train if you wanted to get one from one of these department stores?
It was a hand-to-hand situation.
Oh, they sold them in the store?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, I didn't know
And
that.
so that was a big issue. And hobby shops in the Miami area, Orange Blossom Hobby Shop for one, carried the products. And Burdines had their own section where they actually sold the trains. And so in some cases, now Birdlands, as time went on, they still had their displays, but hobby shops took over primarily as the best source. So we'd look at the catalogs. Next thing you know is say, "Hey mom, hey dad, this is this year's thing. This is really great." And we would indicate, like you mentioned, we'd check off what we wanted, and then the long wait before Halloween to Christmas on Christmas morning, then that was the suspense of it all.
I know, not with trains, but I was a big video game collector, and getting the newest games and all that kind of stuff was a pain, like a super pain. Even though I know what I wanted, going to the stores, they never have it. You know what I mean? Was it the same thing? Was there like shortages of these? You had to pre-order kind of thing and get them, or
no,
did they always have a
not
good
they
supply?
They seem to always have a supply of almost everything. But you have to understand that back then there wasn't that much product. So when your parents would go down to buy these things, basically they'd be coming home with Lionel boxes, and the Lionel box was set aside from others because it was orange, blue, and white.
Yeah,
it was very distinctive. You'd find it somewhere. And they were terrific at marketing because number one, they had a distinct package like you see here. Their logo was on it. But you'd go into a hobby shop and you would see this part on the shelf, or this part on the shelf, and it would be stacks and stacks of these boxes with cars in them.
And we're gonna get, when we go over some of the other stuff, we're gonna get some of those boxes. Like, yeah, I see you have some down, not necessarily Lionel, but we'll get some of those boxes to show you guys on here. We just have to find where they are in this madness.
This is madness is true.
I'll give you a quick look at some of the stuff that's going on here. But you can see the train station is pretty full here. I don't know. There's people on the tracks. You can see cars, buildings, which is some other things he's going to get into, how to do the buildings, where you can get these things, how to get started in train collecting. He's got a huge wall of rare trains and collectibles over here we have to go through, so it's gonna be, and even memorabilia he has from Lionel, as you can see some of the stuff over there.
Well, this is not your northeast or northern climate type railroad where you have a basement. This is how we have to do things in Florida. And this basically is a 2-car garage. And as you can see...
now it's a no-car garage.
It's a no-car garage, is correct. It becomes, in actuality, I was motivated by the fact that a lot of our hobby shops are no longer available. The hobby shop business used to be quite a business, and unfortunately, as time has gone on, kids have changed a bit. Their attitudes have changed, and the climate has changed. So I refer to myself as 20th century as opposed to 21st century, because basically kids' reactions, like my reaction to these things, we had a lot of toy stores, we had a lot of hobby shops. That's vanished. In fact, there is not a hobby shop in Palm Beach County.
Yeah, so now, that's a good point. So now, where do you go to find trains?
Well, you have to basically go, well, there's a few ways to do this. Number one, there are a lot of train shows that are put on by individuals who travel with trains for sale. So you're not going to go to a store, you're not going to go to a hobby shop anymore. You're going to be looking online for trains that are for
sale.
sale.
You want to get good ones, right? I mean, because
well,
the
sure.
ones they sell now today are not anywhere near like these that you have.
Well, there is a company that just surfaced, and they have a department store, from what I understand, Menards. I've never been to it, but they are bringing back replicas of the old Lionel trains.
And they're going to be made out of like die cast and tin or whatever?
No, most of them are not as well made, and again, they do represent a good product. They are a lot less expensive than Lionel when it was first introduced.
That'll be something good to do. We'll have to get one of those and try to get one that is a replica of one that you have already, so we could do a comparison.
Right, do a comparison.
That would be great.
But basically, I'm more interested in collecting the series of trains from the 1914, which is one of my oldest, and then all the way up into current day type train
then
diesels and so forth.
Working on them, fixing them if they need be,
Right.
and those kind of things.
Well, there are only a handful of individuals now that still have most of the Lionel equipment, parts, the presses in order to put bearings in and to put wheel sets in and things of that nature. And I'm lucky to have one here who retired and had the last hobby shop in Palm Beach County. And that the depot, which Jim and Georgina basically ran for a number of years, over 25, 30 years. They closed about 3 years ago, but Jim does still do repairs on trains. I do a lot myself, having learned about this, but I don't have an inventory of parts.
Right.
So it becomes rather difficult at that point. But some of the new trains, MTH and Weaver and so forth, but MTH primarily came on the scene back in the mid-1990s, and you're going to see a lot of their product around. Mike's Train House, MTH out of Columbia, Maryland, really did a phenomenal job of putting out tremendous product. A lot of it was through the new updated circuit boards and so forth, and they had a lot of features that the old Lionel trains just don't have. But the issue is old Lionel trains, no matter where you find them, up in an attic or somewhere on eBay that people have had, they've changed hands a lot. Some of them haven't been discovered out of an attic for 30, 40, 50, 60 years. But Lionel had one thing that is just magnificent, and that is no matter how old they are, they run. They're heavy in weight, which I liked a lot, but they run. And I am there are two types of people in the business. Collectors who want everything in a box or everything on a shelf. And then there are individuals like myself who like to run trains.
Yeah, I think that is actually going to make what's going to make this better. So when he gets the trains, as you can see here, all his stuff is open. So you'll actually he'll be able to see and show you those things up close. We'll get into, like I said here, a lot of these rare ones up here. You'll get to see them out of the box, which a lot of people don't tend to show you that stuff.
Right.
Which I think is good. And here's is this like your little workbench kind of area here?
Yes, you can see that it has a tremendous amount of organization to it.
You're doing billboards.
Only I can deal with this.
Yeah, it says private property, keep it out.
Correct.
No trespassing.
I'm basically. I think it's a warning to people, because if you try to find something here, it's going to be really difficult.
Is there like snares and traps in there, maybe?
I think it's more like falling objects is pretty much going to be the danger point. But again, I emphasize the fact this is Florida. And what I decided to do, as you can see, a lot of other things in here don't pertain to necessarily trains, but it's toy store. We can't go into many toy stores anymore. I miss them. I think they're terrific. And you just can't do it. So I wanted to put together something that would be enjoyable for me or anyone else that would visit, to say, this is like a toy store. Primarily it's trains, but there's a lot of other stuff that I've collected along the way that kind of is interesting, and maybe not to everyone, but to me, this is my toy store.
This is a hoarder's heaven toy store.
Hoarder's heaven, yes. Kind of, I mean, my entire layout is off the rails.
Crazy off the rails. You can't even fit anything more on the rails here. I mean, there's maybe a couple rail left. Not even a car's.
But
people.
everything runs. That's the big issue.
Yeah, we'll have show him.
Yeah,
and
we're
it
gonna
does
feature.
Smoke some of them, right? Makes the noise and the smoke.
Well, a lot of the new product is very high tech, and there's, as marvelous as it might be, the issue is I want trains to run. High tech trains, I have problems with those. I've had to overcome problems with MTH with battery replacement and things of that nature.
I think because they're just not big and hefty enough to pull the load. You know, a lot of these trains are light plastic. They're not going to be able to pull the load of, once it, because the train goes by momentum, right? Once it gets its speed, then it's, But if you don't have something that can pull
Right.
strong enough to pull the load, it's
Okay, so what they did to overcome that, they put traction tires on the actual driving wheels. I thought it was a bad idea because traction tires, if you sit, now obviously I have a lot of things to run, so I have a schedule where I go through all my stuff to keep it running, keep it operating. So basically I'm an operator as well as a collector, but I emphasize operation because if I'm not able to run the train, then I'm not satisfied. However, there are individuals who just like to collect and they like it in the box, or they put up a shelf. Beautiful stuff. I mean, listen, it's gorgeous stuff. If I had a basement, I'd probably go wild, but I don't, and I don't live in an area where I can have a basement. So my layout is going to be something you may not see, and it certainly isn't as beautiful and professional as some of these others are, but guess what? I love it, I like it, it's fun, and I enjoy running trains.
That's the main thing. So anyway, we're about 20 minutes now. I don't want to go too crazy on the introduction. So for the next,
I will tell you, it's a follow-up if you don't mind for a minute. Traction tires, I cut them off because,
well,
and I've
that's gonna void the warranty. You can't be. It's like pulling the
the
label off the mattress. You can't.
Well,
you say don't do that.
Is that punishable by law?
Yeah,
if it is, I'm in trouble.
You may drawn in quarters. Doing
I have
actually
a F-150 pickup truck back here, and every time I take traction tires off, I've got a stack of them.
Oh, they fit on the cars?
Pardon me? Yeah, they were on the engines and stuff. I take them off, and if I run into any kind of a problem, there's a little product called bullfrog snot, which is kind of an adhesive sort of product.
That sounds pleasant.
It's great stuff. But in the event that you have something, I don't have trouble with trains pulling large and long trains. My longest train is 27 cars, and none of my engines that pull it actually have any traction tires at all.
Okay.
So another thing that you're going to notice is my layout is flat. And my wife comes out here and says, my God, you have no mountains. You know, she looks at all the beautiful stuff that everybody has online.
Yeah, we have some bridges, but there's no way to get up there.
Well, that's right. And the bridges are there for effect. And even though they're beautiful, the Lionel lift bridge and the bridge that you have over is the Atlas double track bridge. And then I got one from up in Eric's area of Atlanta, in Littleton. That's basically a maple hardwood bridge that was built by someone up in that area. It was on sale on eBay. I bought it. I painted it over the natural wood, but as you can see, there is no destination at this point in time. However, they give a nice effect and a backdrop. So the issue in Florida, primarily that I had, was without a basement, this is all you have to work with. So they thought.
thought.
If you want to have trains, and I've had them ever since I was 8 years old, you've got to come up with some novel ideas in order to be able to do something of size. This is a weird shape, primarily due to the fact that I needed to put as much as I could in a very small area, a flat area. And so I have a rail yard. I've got a number of different things we'll see as we move along. But primarily, this is, as I say, off the rails. You're not going to see garage layouts like this very often.
All right, so we're going to get into all the different trains you have. And we'll start with probably some of the most rare ones first. For the next video, we're going to have you pick out one that either your favorite or one that's just really rare, and we'll go over that.
Sure.
But the channel's mostly going to be going over, showing you guys the trains, and he'll give you some, history on the trains itself. Sure. Go over maybe some tips and tricks on how to, basic stuff on fixing or touching them up, stuff like that. Get into even like he's doing over here with the billboards and stuff, how to do these things, maybe.
Yeah, these are
and the dioramas, like the
right.
houses and things like that, which is I think is cool, and running them.
Sure.
Running the train.
Well, see,
right?
that's the fun of it. I have fun with my trains. I mean, it doesn't look like a polished museum piece, but with me as an operator, I love running trains. And different types and different ways and so forth and so on. And the layout is set up so that it could be any town, anywhere. But you know, when it comes down to it, this is not going to be in a museum ever, and
Well,
it's not going to be in a magazine ever that I can think of. But it's what you have to do if you're in my position and you want to run trains and you live in South Florida. This is the best I can come up with that has a little bit of everything. And like I said, it's not a museum piece, but it's a lot of fun.
Okay. All right. I think that's good for now. So.
Well, I'm looking
will.
forward to our continuing on with this and seeing some of the weird, novel ways that I've had to come up and make things bigger in a smaller space.
Right. And if it doesn't work, we just sell it all.
It's off the rails.
We just get rid of it. We just get rid of it. All right. So thank you guys.
We'll see you next time.
and
Look
see you
forward to
next
seeing
time.
you on our next edition.